Let's pick up with one other episode of The Twilight Zone you directed called Caesar and Me with Jackie Cooper,
Yes.
involving a ventriloquist dummy. What kind of challenges did that pose for you as a director, in that sort of the dummy being a character?
It's a good question. The immediate thought is what's the sound of the voice? How realistic is it? How make-believe? How fanciful is it? And secondly, who does it on the set? For Jackie Cooper, who played that character, who played the ventriloquist. So I don't know how we solved that. Probably it was a different voice in the dub than it was on the set. And should Jackie know whose voice it would ultimately be? I don't know how we worked that out, but those are the initial thoughts. Who's the voice? What's it sound like to him? So he kind of knows what to play. And as I say, I don't know how we worked it out. I remember we had a little dolly, a little pan shot with him. We supposed that he got so real that he got down out of his little chair onto the floor, and he did some pacing as he got angry. I don't remember how we facilitated the get down. Don't know.
What about the reveal? I think the reveal, the big chill moment, was when the reveal is when Jackie Cooper swings around and he has the face of the dummy and the dummy has his face. Was that something you had to work on to really get in a certain kind of creepy mode and everything?
Steve, I don't remember that.
Well,
Was that the?
Well, let me say
they switch positions. Is that it?
I think so. But it was a memorable episode, so something went right.
It was kind of a duplicate episode, as I understand it. Cliff Robertson did one a few years previously.
Maybe that's the one I'm referring to.
Maybe it is. I didn't direct that one. I directed one with Jackie Cooper playing the ventriloquist. And I don't remember what the climax of ours was.
Jackie Cooper character, on the advice of his dummy, commits burglaries, and then then his landlady's niece overhears him talking about the burglaries and calls the police.
Yes.
And the dummy tells her they should team up. At first, she has to get rid of her aunt or something. So it's more of a okay.
Yeah. The young girl comes to mind. Can't remember her name. I can see her very. Might have been
Morgan Brittany.
Yeah, Morgan Brittany, I was just going to say. I saw her photograph or some credit recently of her being a gorgeous woman in whatever she was in. And though I didn't think of The Twilight Zone, we had worked on other things. She was always terribly good, terribly proficient, and great looking and precise. Morgan Brittany, I always thought maybe that was an invented name, but I didn't say that. Shh. Right. I don't know. She married a stuntman, a very good stunt coordinator. Forgotten his name. Anyway.
Batman. I think you could call Batman a landmark series. And you directed several of in fact, the first episode and some other episodes.
I did the pilot and then about 2 or 3 more.
How did that come into your life?
Bill Dozier, the head of Fox then, somehow singled me out. Lorenzo Semple, the writer, and I were very good friends. Maybe Lorenzo mentioned me to Dozier. Maybe I was just accruing enough credits so that I seemed a logical guy to do that. I don't know. But it was totally crazy, crazy material, a la Lorenzo taking it, right at the spirit of it, right out of the comic book, and then twisting it with his ironic intelligence. Was crazy, wonderful material, and the crew didn't get it. I remember Jill St. John, a gorgeous actress of the time, perished in the bat generator that generated all his computer power and things. She went down, puff of smoke came up, and that was the end of her. And because go-go dancing was in vogue at the time, Batman said, "What a way to go-go. Cut, print, move on. Wait. The operator moves up to me and says, "Did you hear what she said?" Yeah, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, he thought it was a mistake, and I said, "No, that's great, onward." The guys were all kind of looking at each other for a couple of days because it was so crazy. The Riddler explains the Riddler to the police commissioner and says he contrives his plots like artichokes. You have to strip off spiny leaves to reach the heart. Now, that isn't exactly a joke, but it ain't straight either. So the trick was to get that tone. Kind of crazy, but not too cute. That's accurate. Crazy, but uncute. A lot of fun, a lot of fun. Took a lot of the visuals right from the comic book. The Dutch dangles, pow, biff, swat, crash. Took that right from the comic strip. And the garish colors, sadly. We should have taken it a little easier with those colors, but that's my bias creeping in there too, about primaries.
Well, speaking of tone, were you in on the early discussions? I mean, since you did the pilot, you set the tone for the series. Was that, were there a lot of deep, long, into the night discussions about the tone of the show? Or?
There sure were not. Dozier, I learned later from biographies that I read, was a very savvy Hollywood producer and executive who knew writers and knew from how scripts should be prepared, etc. That was his big skill. He had been previously, or maybe subsequently, president at CBS here on the coast. So he knew his way around and was a very savvy guy, as I said. And when I got on the thing, he said, hey, don't get funny. Just remember, play it straight. And what he meant was, don't let it get cute. And I didn't quite even know what he meant, but I sensed it in my own terms, and that was the only discussion ever. Lorenzo was not around, though he was a good friend. I don't know why he wasn't. Anyway, it was really a lot of fun. And Adam West repeatedly tried to sneak in a few jokes here and there to prove to his Malibu buddies that he knew it was crazy, that what we were doing. I kept, Adam, no, Adam. I remember he closed a book once and he had put Fuller's Earth dust in it. So he closes the book and this little puff of dust. God, Adam, no, Adam, no. Fun battle, fun ongoing battle.
Did you take that cue from Dozier about keeping it straight?
Yeah.
For the performance of Adam West, where he played it in that sort of straight way that was hilarious.
Yes, yes.
Among all the riotous stuff going on around him. It was always that earnest, serious bat tone, you know.
Yes, yes. Dozier and he might have talked. He might have been on the thing before I was, so he was brainwashed by the time I got to him. But we were certainly on the same page. And occasionally I thought he would intone the thing a little. He would add too much mockery. He would add beats. Once upon a time, my friends. It just, I would try and straighten him out a little bit. So no, he didn't gag it up, but he arched it up. He tended to put some of the lines in stone above the courthouse because he thought that would be appropriate for Batman or Bruce Wayne with his philosophical approach on everything. So the trick was to simplify that stuff too. Not too much performance, not too much presentation, not too much quotation marks around certain things. That was the objective, to remove all of that stuff. To seemingly, underline seemingly, take out all style and just let the words and the fact of what the hell we were doing tell the tale.
Was Batman's creator, Bob Kane, involved at all in the show?
He was not. I was trying to figure out when he left us. I'm not sure. Probably was certainly since then, but no. No appearance that I know of. Maybe in the executive rooms he had a lunch or two, but I wasn't in on any of that. That would have happened during the selling of Kane, the idea of going to television, etc., or to the comic, the DC Comics or whatever it was, yeah. I was not in on that.
It would seem like his vision wasn't exactly that kind of comic camp vision, you know, Batman, which was so successful.
Yeah. It's hard to, I think it was earnest, wasn't it? When we were kids and we heard Jack Armstrong, the All-American Boy, I think it was all earnest. Betty, Betty, we can't. We can't go in the cave. There may be danger in there. I mean, it isn't, you aren't kidding it. You are and you aren't. You're playing it for real, but it's absolutely preposterous. So that's the actor's secret, you know. They have to work that out, and I help them when I start to see the cracks show, the seams show. But it's tricky. And then it isn't. If you just get it and know that that's the road to follow, it's great.
Well, there's some crazy things that seem to go throughout the series, like things in the Batcave were all labeled, like this rudimentary label and everything. Was that something that you began right at the beginning? And
that was in the script. That was Lorenzo. And I remember that very good actor who played the butler in Waiting. Very fine English character actor, very tall man. Lorenzo wrote without pause, when the bat phone rings and Edward, or whatever his name was, picks up the bat phone and responds, it says without pause. And he kept waiting instead of picking up the phone and knowing he was talking to Bruce Wayne instantly, which is crazy, but he said, I don't know what you mean, show me. And I said, Bruce, hi. Ah. But it was just, everything was a little off center. It was great.
That was Alan Napier, the actor.
Yes, Alan Napier is right. The character name was something like Edwin or Bertrand or...
It was Alfred.
Alfred is quite right. Yep. Good guy who was in on the fun of the thing. The gentleman who played the police commissioner was an ex-huge Hollywood silent star.
Neil Hamilton?
Yes. From theater and then early Hollywood. Wonderful guy. Did it appropriately in his stiff shirt and bureaucratic chest, you know. Great.
They were known as the dynamic duo. What was the dynamic between Burt Ward and Adam West in terms of the way one played with that earnestness, that boyishness against that steady Adam West sort of deadpan delivery?
I think they fell into that themselves. They are very good guys, and I think Burt, as a non-actor, just a very green young guy, fell into the role of being subservient and taking any tips on life or acting or anything from Adam. They were just good pals, and I think they started doing public appearances together, so they were good chums always, and raised a lot of good hell together, I'm very convinced.
Was Adam West a leader in terms of the cast, or was it just one big...
Not so much, no. He was kind of a sly voyeur. He liked it all, enjoyed it all, but he didn't feel it was his position to be what Stack felt it was very natural for him to be, for example. No, he wasn't like that. The series was the star in an odd way. The idea of Batman, the execution of those scripts, the writing of the scripts, ramrodded by Lorenzo, that was the star, and everyone else was kind of serving that. Even though Burgess Meredith would come on as a guest star, playing the Penguin, he would know that he's just doing commedia dell'arte again, and comedy and farce, and he would just do it in the spirit of that, and was great.
What was it like with the guest actors? The show was famous for, celebrities, actors, well-known people being guest stars throughout the run of the series. Was it a kick for them? Was it?
Yes.
How did?
Yes, they arrived brainwashed by the strength of the idea, the fact of Batman. I mean, the bat sign goes up in the sky at night, and that's a signal to Batman to come and help the commissioner. I mean, come on, if you're going to commit to that, you know that it's a little off the wall. So you arrive, as they did, ready to pretend and be a restrained farceur. That's what they did, and that's what they were. Yeah, they were great. George Sanders was in one of them that I was in. I don't think I worked with Cesar Romero. I think he was on other shows, but I knew him from shows at Disney, and of course he did the Joker. Was it the Joker?
Yes.
Yeah, he did the Joker right on the money. Vivid, over the top, appropriate, oddly believable. I mean, Jack Nicholson as the Joker was 4 times bigger than any performance, and yet somehow believable. Wait till they get a load of me. You know, you just believe. It's so preposterous. And I don't know what we're watching. I don't know if we're watching. I don't know. It's separate from all the other everything. It's just separate. It's crazier. It's not as real, and yet we join it and follow it and participate in it to the same extent and more so than we do the other things. Why? What are we doing? I don't know.
What about Frank Gorshin?
Great. Did a lot of nightclubs, a lot of singles. So he had worked, pardon me, in front of an audience a lot, from which anyone learns an immense amount. Very skillful, very crafty guy, and committed. I mean, he would make an entrance and it would sort of knock you off your feet. You know, you wouldn't think, you wouldn't say, is he kidding? But that would be your first thought, because it was so big and so vivid and so committed and specific. And you won't go, wait a minute, I believe that. That's right in this concept, in this context. No, he was terrific. Good guy, good guy. That for some reason, that the preposterous on of that show reduced everybody to being cooperative and subservient. I think the idea was so crazy and so immense that we all just went with it. You know, directorially, performance, everything.
In terms of some of the signature parts of that show, one was when there'd be a a physical altercation between Batman and Robin and a bunch of thugs who always look like comic book thugs almost. You know, the intercut with the biffs and the bams and the thuds and everything.
Yes.
When you were staging it, obviously the graphic part wasn't there, but did you do that with a technique that would intercut with those graphic elements? Because they would always be falling back.
Did not. Did a normal, in quotes, flamboyant fight, and then put that in later. I remember a big decision, and I should have shared it with someone, and except they weren't around to share it with, was the masks on the part of the villains. I mean, yeah, in comic books, but now we've got life. We've got actors portraying these guys. Should we put the little masks on, or should they just be rough-looking mugs without them? And I decided we must. And I think others thought, hey, wait a minute, that's too far. And I think I thought, no, we're committing ourselves to that whole style, and we must do it, and we did it, and no one said a word. But I do remember that decision, kind of wondering if we should go that far and deciding we should.
Because there were villainous characters in, I think it was something like Uncle Scrooge or some kind of comics where they were called the Beagle Boys, and they had those little masks on their eyes.
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of thing, like
Yeah,
a
was
Lone
that-
Ranger mask.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know, I suppose that came from, I don't know, the French farce theater. I don't know.
And then the two-part structure, the two-episode structure, was that something that was thought out to be an initial way to do this show?
I think that sounds like a Lorenzo idea that he tried on Dozier, and Dozier, with his strength and power and clout and experience those days, sold it to the network, and victoriously so. That's my suspicion, though I was busy with the scene making and didn't really know about that. Didn't pay much attention to it.
And the cliffhanger endings, it almost seemed like the characters could hear that voiceover. Was that also completely a
Completely post-production. And as you know, in television, the main cliffhanger is Act 2. The second important is Act 1, and the third most important is Act 3 because of the way it lays out in the hours. So it worked out well because the main cliffhanger would be halfway. Yeah, it was fun. Great fun.
What about the challenges of lighting that show in that it's had such vivid colors?
Yeah, the cinematographer was a really savvy Hollywood guy who was kind of in the habit of lighting it bright. He was a class Hollywood, high-key cameraman. He had shot Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? Sidney Poitier and the white young lady in that love affair with Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. He had shot that. And if you run across that now, you'll see that it's terribly high-key Hollywood. It's just everything's blazing with light. And I was green enough not to really know the difference. I don't think I dabbled with the colors. I think I just accepted in tone what the costumers were doing. And subsequently hated it because it needn't have been that way. It would have been great just to be a little quieter with the visuals. I don't know. It might be crazy because when a lady in a script is written with a red dress, you deliver a red dress. Well, do you gain anything by just taking that down a little? I don't know. I would certainly always try. But as far as really being right about that, I'm not sure, and whether Batman would have been better with sexier lighting, I don't know. I mean, look at the current ones. They are oddly not completely successful, and there are a lot of reasons for that. And one of the reasons does not include high-key lighting. All that lighting is pretty sexy and low-key, but they're still not successful, not completely successful. Don't know.
But it certainly was an element that's memorable in the show. I mean, people think about the camp, the humor,
Yes.
performance, and,
Yes.
the look.
Very much so, very much so. And I admit to a bias on that whole subject because even as you list those items, I accept them totally. Yeah, primary colors, cape, mask. I mean, it's goofy. It's goofy and maybe very appropriate that it's primary.
When you did the pilot, was there any second guessing on your part? You mentioned some of your decision-making process in setting the tone for the show, but there was a lot that hadn't been done in terms of a television series to establish that kind of camp tone. And it seems like comedy is a real balancing act. And then that you'd done comedies before and more conventional types of comedies.
Yeah.
Did you have that plan locked in when you arrived that first day?
No. I knew because of Lorenzo, the writer, the crazy writer with his off-center humor, that the material would be certainly that way. He contrives his plots like artichokes. I certainly knew that. How it should really sound, I didn't preconceive. I waited for it to develop and then realized that simplifying and economizing, being faithful to the material and the speeches was the right thing to do. Second guessing, no. Another thing you get paid to do is be positive and be the captain. And even when you're not positive, if you feign being positive, you'll fall into that mode pretty quickly, and it doesn't do you any good directorially to be unsure, even if you secretly are. And I wasn't secretly, as it turned out, on that particular job. I knew what I was doing. I remember really fretting over, I don't know, an escape through maybe 2 or 3 or 4 pipes of air conditioning tubing and seeming to go what would be 4 floors, and in editorial, in cutting, coming from 2nd to 1st floor. And I fret over that. Because they didn't go 1 floor, guys. They went 4. We can't go 4. The building has 2. This is me talking to myself. I never admitted it to a soul, and nobody ever said a word. But it's a lie. It's just, not that Batman isn't a lie, but still, that's a real directorial classic preoccupation. Shouldn't we at least have the physics, the metaphysics right? Nobody seemed to care or know. Funny.
The joke of the show even extended to the title of the episodes. Like they were paired like the first one you did, hide the riddle, smack in the middle.
Yes.
The 2 episodes.
Yes.
This introduced the Riddler in the first episode.
Yes.
Do you remember any notes you gave to Frank Gorshin, the actor, and how he would perform the Riddler?
No, I had known him before on other shows. I knew he was a zany, ultra-committed ex-comic or current comic. So I knew it would be ultra-vivid. So I was certainly prepared for that, and he, having worked with me, trusted me. So I don't remember any specific direction, but it would be very comfortable for me to speak to him about a point. Frank, mechanics, mechanics were no problem. Don't drop to your knees until after you've said such and such. That's no problem for him. Good physical guy. And he was always behind the effort. He didn't work from inside particularly. He just was a performer. But his stuff, when he worked, between him and his work, it was very organic. Because boy, when he got excited over confusing Batman, we remember how vividly he giggled at the thought of thwarting back Batman and putting him off. He just went bozo, and it was terrific. And I don't think I ever said, Frank, cool it. Let's shrink it a bit. Because, here he is in his green mask and tights and everything. I don't remember shading any of that at all. I think I'd known him on Hennessy, and we worked legitimately, director to actor then. But Batman was a different animal. Boy, you just went in there, jumped and pulled the ripcord, and off you went. That's the feeling of everybody, I think. That's what you were watching on film, this spirit, this freedom, this release of everything we'd been taught, It's funny.
Episodes 3 and 4 introduced Burgess Meredith as the Penguin. The first day when he waddled out there on the set or disappeared in his costume, was he doing it? Was he already performing
Absolutely. I remember consciously thinking, this guy knows most of the answers about performing and has been most of the places one performs. Because that was suddenly French farce or commedia dell'arte or something, and he had the cigarette holder, and he kept drooling. How could you not play a scene? And I said, everybody called him Buzz, Meredith Buzz. I said, Buzz, it's a little juicy, man. I don't think it can be that juicy. And his answer was, well, I don't know. And that was kind of the end of it, and whether he used a handkerchief or I don't know what happened, but we didn't ever get any juice for the audience. Yeah, they were all that way, particularly the mature performers who knew the different styles and degrees that acting encompasses. They were great.
We're going to change tape.